Welcome back to Ask Dad. On today's video, we're talking about becoming a valuable employee or becoming valuable at work. In today's economic situation, we're seeing a lot more layoffs, a lot of more economic uncertainty, unemployment rate increasing as the Fed tries to combat inflation, and these are type of trends that we used to see every few years. Before the 2008 almost, or well, probably about 2011 to 2023 timeframe when interest rates were low and everything was going well, we used to have economic cycles that would come and go, and we knew that there would be higher unemployment and then lower unemployment. It was just a fact of life. We haven't really seen that over the past 15 years until this last year, and it's highly possible that job losses will continue to increase as the Fed continues to fight inflation. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we can make ourselves valuable at work. If you're self-employed, that's a whole different video, but for the intent of this video, let's jump into it. I pulled some of these details from a website called elites.asia, ELITEZ.asia. And the site itself is not important, but what is important is different factors that employers are looking for in their employees. So let's jump right in. One of the things that people are looking for, that employers are looking for, and I can concur with this, having had to hire people as well as having had to make layoff decisions, a strong work ethic is very important to employers. People need to be able to, or employers need to be able to trust that their employees are going to show up and work. They're going to get the job done. It's a big factor. It seems common sense, but there's a lot of discussion today on job boards and forums where people are not really all that motivated to work. And it's not necessarily just the younger group. It's actually in all work groups. So having a strong work ethic is important. Now, here it talks about working hard is not enough, and I can verify that. Some people will show up and put in the hours, but they won't be doing things of value. So employers are expected to work smart, finding the efficient way of doing things, not just taking time or spinning your wheels on a project. Doing it, as we'll talk about a little bit more, in a manner that your employer can trust that you don't need constant supervision or constant babysitting. As we grow up, as we grow in our careers, we should be more and more responsible, and responsible individuals are valued by their companies within reason. We'll talk about that. So dependability and responsibility are very important also, because an employer needs to understand that someone will show up and do the job. They'll be dependable. They'll be responsible. They'll take accountability for their actions. Keeping their supervisor updated on their progress, communicating, all of those pieces are very important to an employer. Having an optimistic and upbeat attitude can be critical, especially when things get tough, especially when there's things that are challenging. Employers value people who are supportive and helping the team stay positive, a positive team. If anyone's ever been on a sports team that's very positive, generally that attitude will drive people to win. And it's amazing how you can see one goal, one basket, one whatever it is, can change the entire mindset of a team and rally that team to a win. The same thing can happen in business, where a team can be working hard and you have a win, and then that win generates additional wins. It may be a sale, it may be a discovery, a breakthrough, something like that, that helps people focus. And usually that comes from the optimistic and upbeat people who are there. Not just that, but we've all had friends or people that we know who are positive and who are negative. And generally people want to be around other positive people, not the negative ones who drag them down. So remember, whatever the challenge you're facing, find reasons to be optimistic. Find reasons to help others to remain upbeat, and that will help your value. Adaptability is very critical. Being able to retain flexibility, being able to change and shift with market needs, with company needs. Sometimes companies will make big swings and will look at something, and I don't know how many times I've heard, well, that's the way we've always done things. Well, the way we've always done things doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. And employees that can change and be flexible and adapt their skill set to the new way of doing things, or even finding new ways to do things that no one ever's thought of before, that's more productive, that bring more value. Those are critical skills that employees can learn. Honesty and integrity are, again, very highly looked for, very highly sought after in employees, because an employer needs to understand that an employee is being honest with them and with their customers. The integrity means that we'll deliver on what we say and we won't overpromise with something we can't do. Businesses that can count on their employees to be honest and to have integrity and to build on the integrity of their own brand, that is a very valuable skill to have. Self-motivation is critical, especially in any type of remote work, whether it's outside sales, whether it's a remote employee. Understanding that an employee is going to go out and get the job done, start on their own, not have to have their manager call them every day and check in and micromanage them. Managers should not have to babysit their employees. Now, some managers are bad managers, and that's just how they operate because they don't know any other way. But a good manager will give their employees the room to do what they need, and a good manager will allow their self-motivated employees to go out and get the job done. So self-motivated employees who are self-starting, who get things done, are incredibly valuable. The drive to upgrade oneself is a little bit tricky because this needs to be skills that add value to the company, not just skills that add value to ourselves. So when you're looking at the drive to upgrade yourself, that could be taking a certification course within some companies, or maybe taking on new projects at other companies that other people just may not want to do. If you're able to make yourself more valuable within your company structure, your company then will be able to regard you as a more valuable employee, which can generate to more compensation. Also, if you're upgrading yourself and becoming more valuable to your company, it makes you more valuable to other companies in the event that you need to make a job change or you want to make a job change. So always be looking for a way to upgrade your skills, become more valuable, to add more value. You may need it in the future, and whether it's within your company, your current company, or a future company, that's valuable to both you and the company. Self-confidence is critical. Now, self-confidence needs to be self-confidence for a reason. There's a lot of people who exude self-confidence with no idea what they're doing, but it's important to make sure that we understand what we're doing, that we're confident in our roles, and that comes from an understanding of knowing what we can do, knowing how to get projects done, knowing what our authority levels are, and knowing what our boss will sign off on. If we're able to operate within that sphere and have the confidence in doing it, that comes across to customers, to managers, to supervisors, because they'll see that we're getting the job done. When you combine that with all of the other factors that we're talking about, especially the trust, the accountability, the integrity, then that makes us a much better operator within whatever role we're in. Professionalism is important. I don't know if you've ever had a call with someone that is talking in slang, they're talking in a way that makes you feel that they're really not very competent in their jobs. The way we handle ourselves can make us appear and actually become more valuable. It helps drive that trust factor for the customers if they know that they're talking to someone who understands their role, who understands how to get a job done, who handles themselves in a way that represents their company appropriately. Remaining professional does not mean that you have to be completely separate from any emotion or anything else, because those help drive a relationship. But keeping it professional is something that is very helpful. Employers want people who are loyal. Now, loyalty only goes so far. Our employers need to be loyal to us as well. But we should be loyal to our company and make sure we're not sharing company secrets. Not necessarily going and expecting to job hop every 6 months and get a bigger pay raise. Now, there are absolutely opportunities to do that, but I will tell you from a hiring scenario, one thing I would look at is how frequently someone left a job. If someone had a new job every 6 months or even every 2 years, I was pretty confident that I would be bringing that person in for no more than 2 years. Generally, it also means that that person is not adding a lot of value to their company because they're just going to leave. And there's not usually a lot of loyalty on the employee's part. So I would be very hesitant to hire that type of a person as an employer. Also, being loyal to a company does not mean that you don't look around and see what other opportunities are out there and never make a change. But you do give your employer your all when you're with them. And that actually drives value, because when someone's trying to recruit you away, if you've been a loyal employee, they're going to know they have to offer you more to get you to come over to the other side of the fence. So that's a few different things. Now, let's change gears and talk about what companies have to do, or what companies use as criteria when they're laying people off. And the reason I go into this is, again, if we're adding value, we need to make sure we're adding the type of value that keeps us employed or makes us valuable to the next employer. So historically, when we go into layoffs, there are a few different options, and it depends on the type of company you work for. Some companies make seniority-based decisions, others make employee status-based decisions. There's merit-based selection, skill-based selection, and then there's, of course, multiple criteria ranking. So generally, when you get into the union type situation, seniority plays in. And the seniority selection is, if you're first in, you're last out. So meaning the people that have been on the job the longest are the last to let go. If you're the new kid coming in, well, you're going to be the one that's going to get laid off in the first round of layoffs. This can be challenging for companies. It really makes it easy for managers, because they don't have to think. They just have to say, well, you've been on the job the shortest, so we'll see you later. But it doesn't allow the employee any sense of security based on job quality or quality of work. If I'm going into a company, I'd actually want to know if they're going to make layoff decisions. Are they making it based on seniority, or are they basing it on merit or skills? So that may be something that you look at if you're getting into any sort of a job, especially a union type job, is if they do go through layoffs. And it's difficult to figure out when to ask that in the job selection process, but it can be tactfully inserted. Employee status-based selection is something where if they look at the employee and say, well, they're in this type of a situation in their life, we may or may not lay them off. It's a little bit more arbitrary and a little bit harder to justify, actually, if you ever get into an HR situation. Merit-based and skill-based, we'll kind of combine those in the two, but generally these are based on the merits of the employee, their performance or their skills that they bring to the job. Someone who is adding a lot more value, or who has a skill set. For example, if you are a welder and you've got a welder that can do a lot of different types of welding, or a welder who may only be focused on one type of welding with the old stick welding, and they're really not irreplaceable, generally you're going to keep the more valuable employee, or the employer who works harder, who adds more value to the company. These are critical pieces that most companies, in my experience, will focus on when they're deciding who to lay off and who not. And then the multiple criteria is probably the most common, where they will combine all of the details. Now, for the companies, they have to document and figure out, is this a justifiable termination in a layoff scenario? But the most common option that I have seen is generally based on these two, possibly a combination of all of them. But again, as it relates to this video, if we can make ourselves valuable at work, then we stand a better chance of remaining employed during tough times. Something else that I've touched on before is education levels. And although education is not a 100% indicator that someone will be a good employee necessarily, or that they will remain employed, the statistics don't lie. So if you look at the stats here, and we're going to focus more on the unemployment rate than the earnings, although the earnings are very intriguing to look at as a reason for education. In 2023, people that had less than a high school diploma had a 5% or 5.6% unemployment rate. Compare that to a bachelor's degree at 2.2%, and statistically, people with a higher education will remain employed longer. There are a lot of factors that go into this, it's understood, but the statistics, again, drive the importance of education. Now, there's only so much importance to education too, so you can also see that when you get up to a doctoral degree, that's actually a higher unemployment rate than a professional degree, and that could be like a JD, a Juris Doctor for lawyers, for engineers, other specialized educations. So you can see that can actually turn around, and with the income, the same type of thing. But on general, when you look at the unemployment rate, the more education you have, Assuming you have employable skills, you will have a lower unemployment rate. So getting back to just a few things I wanted to finally touch on, the factors that I see as the most important to becoming valuable at work, and not necessarily locking you into a job, but at any job. Number one, have skills. Develop skills. Make sure that you have the skills that the employers in your trade are looking for. If you're coding, make sure you understand the latest coding languages. If you're a welder, make sure you understand the different types of welding and that your quality of product is good. If you're a mechanic, become versed on the latest trends in cars and make sure that you understand how to use the computer tools as well as the mechanical tools that you'll need for that. Make sure that you have the skills. Work hard when you're on the job. You should be the person that they look at and say, that guy comes in, he gets the job done, he focuses on work, and then he's able to leave on time or whenever the job is done. Being the hard worker combined with all of the other factors makes you a valuable employee. Try to fit in with the job. We've all had friend groups, or we've been at schools or church functions or wherever it may be, where there's that one person who just stands out and tries to stand out. And sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're good, sometimes everything else is okay. But when you don't fit in with the culture, it sets you apart. And unless you are adding value by not fitting in, such as an actor who may be an exceptional actor and they are valued for that, you want to fit in with the group. You want to be approachable. You want to be someone that everyone else can feel like you're part of the team. Feel free to go above and beyond. That doesn't mean don't have a work-life balance, but it means sometimes you may work late. Sometimes you may jump in on a project that you don't want to do. Sometimes you may overpromise a little bit and you have to buckle down and make that happen. You have to finish the job. Going above and beyond is usually recognized by employers. Now, don't get carried away and don't let them take advantage of it, but try to go above and beyond. With that, communicate. You have to communicate. And I've talked about this in other videos where sometimes it's important to manage your manager. Managers are not always good managers. Sometimes they're the worst person for the job, but they happen to be in the right place at the right time. If you are able to communicate with them and share with them your challenges, what you need to be able to accomplish things, what your scheduling is for current projects, your communication will enable them to do better in their job, make them look better, which makes them value you more. Figure out how to either drive revenue, drive savings, or move the business forward. When we're in this type of an economy, being in an R&D team that's highly speculative or being in a project that doesn't generate revenue is extremely risky. We've seen a lot of projects get shut down. Apple shut down their driverless car project. We've seen a lot of that type of layoffs where if you're not driving revenue and the companies are trying to become profitable or struggling to remain profitable, you don't want to be in a situation where you're not close to revenue, savings, or quality control, or something that moves the company forward. So always let that be one of your focuses. Lift the team. Be someone who is willing to be uplifting, to be positive, to help the team move forward, to help the team win, whether it's sales or quality, whatever the company goals are. Be the one that helps lift the team to those goals. That will make you valuable. Be willing to accept help. Some people feel like if they don't finish all the projects themselves, they become less valuable. The company wants to get jobs done. The company wants to make sales. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes accepting help and then sharing the praise for getting the project done actually makes you more valuable because you can accomplish more with the help of a team than you can on your own. And a final one, this may be controversial, I hope not, but make your boss look good. Most bosses, most managers are trying hard. They're working hard. They're trying to get the job done. If we help them look good, then they in turn can help lift us. And that may be to new positions, to new skills, to other roles. But if you make your boss look good, then your entire team can benefit from that. These are just a few tips and tricks. I hope this has been helpful. If you like this content, please hit like down below. If you know someone who may benefit from it, please feel free to share. And if you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for being here. We'll see you on the next one.